Good evening. I'd like to begin today with telling you the story of David. David spent 10 years in the foster care system, enduring through all types of abuse. He was released from the foster care system on his 18th birthday, not because he had developed enough independent living skills to live on his own, not because he was stable, but simply because he had turned 18 years old. So he's put out in this world to fend for himself. 2 days after his release, he would be arrested for vagrancy, trespassing, and theft due to being found sleeping in an abandoned building. This would begin his career in the criminal justice system that would entail many charges and many years behind bars. His former case managers, CASAs, judges, and other advocates that worked with him throughout his 10 years in foster care never appeared in court with him. No one appeared to show up to support him. No one appeared to give his circumstances regarding his background in foster care or anything like that. A mere fact that he probably should have never been released from foster care at age 18 and that he should have been kept in the system to gain more life skills and resources was never brought to the table. Unfortunately, this is a reality for many foster children here in the United States. Foster children turn inmates. Foster children unknowingly guided through the foster care to prison pipeline. Research suggests that a great deal of foster children are funneled into the prison system due to being released too early from the foster care system, or quite simply not having enough independent living skills to live on their own. So we've got to highlight two issues here. One, foster children are being released too early from the foster care system. Two, a great deal of foster children do not have enough independent living skills at age 18 to live on their own. So to start with the first issue here, we'll refer to a study that was done by McCoy, McMillan, and Spitznagel in 2008. A study by Chaplain Hall Center for Children found that 19-year-old youth in Illinois who chose to remain in foster care experienced better results than did 19-year-old former foster youth in Iowa and Wisconsin who were required to leave care at age 18. So basically this study suggests that the children who stay just a year longer experienced not just a great life, but a better life. Many people argue that at 18, their children's brains haven't matured enough or developed enough to make rational decisions or to be at a maturity stage where they could live on their own. So we must ask ourselves today, how can we argue that foster children, many times who have experienced trauma and abuse throughout their stint in the foster care system, are mature enough at age 18 to make rational decisions and live on their own if we don't even consider our own children in our own homes to be at that stage? In many instances, foster parents don't stay to support a child after they leave their home. Whatever age they may be, they don't. And many people listening to this speech today, I believe, are aware of the situations regarding our case managers here in the United States. Case managers who are, for lack of better terms, simply overworked and underpaid. That being said, we can't expect for these case managers to follow these children after age 18. That's not even what policy says. Now, some do, and that's noble, but we can't expect that from every foster care case manager. The best thing we can do is implement public policy going forward that would allow these case managers to keep these kids on their caseload at least a year longer, or maybe even further. And before we release these kids, we do need to be sure that they can live on their own. And the kid most definitely needs to be aware of the fact that they will no longer receive support from the state once they are released. They also need to know that the resources that they were receiving while they were in foster care, many of them will no longer be there. They won't have any case managers, they won't have a CASA to represent them in court, or a home to go to if all should fail. Now, bringing it back to our second point, a great deal of foster children don't have enough resources or independent living skills to live on their own at age 18. We'll refer to a study that was done by Jones in 2017 here, and it said that approximately 26,000 youth who age out of foster care at age 18 each year face significant challenges in meeting their needs for health care, education, employment, housing, and emotional support. If foster children did have enough resources, this study would have never happened. The outcome of this study wouldn't be true, but unfortunately it is. And if foster children did have enough resources, a concept such as the foster care to prison pipeline would have never been coined. Now, there are a great deal of foster children who either try to return to their home or foster care after aging out, or at least come back to seek out services which they were receiving while they were in foster care. That in itself shows that foster children know they do not have all they need. They return to the person or entity that was responsible for their care and safety only to be turned away in many cases. Now I want to bring your attention to a graph here. It was done by the childwelfare.gov organization in 2017. What this graph shows is where children were in placements in 2007 and then where they were in 2017. Now we could look at this graph and we could pick out the positive pieces of information to communicate, such as 45% of children are in non-relative foster family homes, and then we have over 20% of children who are in relative foster family homes. We could pick out those positive details today, but that's not my aim. I want to highlight the fact that if you take and add up the categories representing group homes, trial home visits, runaways, and institutions, we're looking at what makes up around 25% of our foster care population. Now, many of the children I'm referring to who wind up in this foster care to prison pipeline are in placements which are similar to these categories. These placements don't train them to live as an independent member of society. They train them to be a number or an inmate. So you're free to go, and I invite anyone to go take a tour through any type of these facilities, whether it be a group home, an institutional facility, a residential facility. Take a tour, and it'll be obvious that we aren't training these kids to live independently. That these institutions, for lack of a better term, most of them resemble a prison. So we're funneling foster children into the prison system because, like I said when I referred to this graph, we could pick out the positive points. And I think a great reason that we are funneling all these children into the prison system is because rather than look at the negative data right in front of us, we'd rather pick and choose the positive points and speak to the efficacy of the foster care system, the progress of the foster care system, when quite frankly, our foster system has been failing for quite some time in the United States. So I just want to highlight what I said in the beginning of the speech, and that research suggests that a great deal of foster children are being released too early, and a great deal of them cannot fend for themselves due to not having enough independent living skills or resources to live on their own. I'd like to conclude by asking you a couple questions. The first one is, if your child winded up in the prison system at age 18, would you support them? Would you answer their phone calls? Would you be the one person who stuck with them through any and everything? Let me ask you this. If at age 18, your child decided to leave home and live on their own, legally, there's not much you can do. That's just reality. But reality also says that things may not work out for them, that they may return home. And if they didn't work out, would you welcome your child back home? It's time for the foster care system to truly take responsibility for the two things which they claim responsibility for in foster children's lives: safety and stability. Being thrown out on the streets at age 18 and then winding up in the prison system, it's definitely not safe. Especially when the state never shows up to court to own their own negligence and admit that they may not have given this kid the best shot in life. In fact, they may have set them up to fail. It is important that we advocate for policies that ensure children are supported through their transition from foster care to independence. It is important that going forward we advocate for policies which will make sure that when these children are released, they possess enough independent skills to live on their own. The right thing is not to sit back and watch 26,000 children each year be funneled through the foster care to prison pipeline. And I invite anyone listening to this to take action today.